Work in progress, the letter L. And here we are. We've only got a number of days left to go. Will it be achieved or will it not?
Can I take you back in time? Can you guess the year that this came out, JT?
When was it? 1988, was it?
Gotta be. The greatest year in Brisbane's history. Because, of course, World Expo 88 happened that year. I don't know if you're aware of it. We had a World Expo in Brisbane in 1988.
Yeah, I remember it.
Yeah.
I remember it.
So does everyone in Brisbane. And look, I know over the years there's lots of kind of anniversary dates and whatnot, but 30 years on...
Yeah, didn't people queue for 3 hours to go into the New Zealand pavilion?
Because it was the best one.
Yeah, you could have got there at around about the same time. Yeah, I remember.
The chicken dance in the beer hut. But there's extra reason to celebrate World Expo 88 because the Australia signs, designed by Ken Doan, those vivacious colours, there were two different signs, if you remember, one as you entered and one as you exited the expo site at South Bank. There was the long, straight Australia spelt out in capital letters, and there was the stacked sign. Those signs were left to rot, as we understand, in a cow paddock on the north side of Brisbane until some very dedicated people got involved. We talked about it on the radio, Craig and I, a couple of months ago. We said, this is unacceptable. We must restore the signs to their former glory. And so a bunch of people got on board and have actually brought the signs back to life. They've also got a new home. And here's a plot twist for you. It's not at South Bank. It's at Caboolture Historical Village. The Australia signs from World Expo 88 will be unveiled at a special day next weekend. And to mark that fact, Craig and I will be broadcasting live on Friday the 26th of October at Caboolture Historical Village. And everyone is invited. We're going to do the whole show from there, from 6 till 10. Mm-hmm. Memories, recollections. We'll celebrate 88. There's a free breakfast.
Oh, that's good.
Bacon and egg rolls.
Oh, lovely.
And you will be the first to see the Australia signs unveiled for the first time in 30 years. It's a moment in history. You want to be there. You want a front row seat in history. So next Friday, the 26th of October, if you can come to Caboolture Historical Village, Craig and I will be there. We'll welcome you with open arms and probably 80s dress as well, because 80s fashion is too terrible not to recognise. And we will share some memories and recollections of World Expo 88. And I found a bloke who I reckon has probably one of the best memories of Expo 88, a time when Kylie Minogue and John Farnham were leading the charts. But I had to go on a bit of a mission to find this bloke to share his memory. I'm in the principal's office and I'm not in trouble, I hope. Hello, Mr. Shackleton.
Hello, Rebecca.
You're going to take us on a trip back in time to 1988. What were you doing that year?
I was a wet behind the ears 22-year-old school teacher, city boy, who'd just been transferred from Brisbane to just about the remotest mainland school we have in Queensland called Baduri State School. It was a one teacher, one principal setup, 10 kids. Those 10 kids all lived in the town. Their parents lived in the town. The town had about 120 people. It had a police officer's residence. It had a Shire Council residence. It had a pub. And it kind of had a shop.
And it had you, Mr. Shackleton. So, you hear the news, World Expo 88 is coming to Brisbane. How did you respond to that?
We had to have a piece of this. Had to work out how could I get these kids from one of the most isolated places in Queensland to have this experience that most kids and most families could just take for granted.
So what did you do?
So I jumped the fence and talked to the police officer. And I said to him, how do I get a licence to drive a bus? It probably wouldn't happen these days, I have to say. He gave me a licence to drive a bus. I found a bus that someone else was prepared to pay for. I then spoke to the kids in Birdsville as well and said, would you like to come? Or their parents. And they said, yeah, great. So I piled 20 kids into a 26-seater bus with a trailer on the back. And we drove for 3 days and 2 nights, stopping first of all somewhere around Roma at a little school, and we slept inside a schoolhouse. And then we stayed at my parents' house in Toowoomba. And then we continued on to Brisbane, where those kids were billeted out with the families of the kids I had taught in Brisbane the previous year.
What an adventure. Were you the only adult on board, or did you have other parents with you? Because these days there would be permission slips and mobile phones and, all kinds of things.
Risk management would see to it that it just wouldn't happen these days. I had one other adult. I had a local governess, as they were called, someone who worked with kids from distance education. So I had some of those kids with me as well, and she came with me. And we were like rock stars that week, because the 7:30 report, as it was called then, met us in Dalby, and they filmed us, and the Courier Mail met us, and ABC TV met us, and the local politicians met us, and everyone was paying for everything. So we were VIP everywhere at Expo 88.
And you've still got ABC Radio Brisbane chasing you, Mr. Shackleton. That's how you know you've really made it. 30 years on. Brett Shackleton, a principal of a one teacher, one principal school in Bedourie. So when you and a busload of country kids get to Brisbane and you walk through World Expo 88 past that big famous Kendone Australia sign, what are your memories of the experience?
I remember we all had to hold hands because these kids were petrified. They had never seen so many people in the one place, and they were walking around with their eyes as big as saucers, and mine were as well. Because I was petrified I was going to lose one of them. And so we had all these backup plans for where to go, who to see. But I have to say, my memory is of an incredibly welcoming, friendly environment. Wherever we went, people knew us. They knew our kids, and we were welcomed in the back door, into the front seats, and most of them were Aboriginal kids. So I remember a presentation, I think, in the Australia Pavilion that had a wonderful Indigenous flavour to it. And our kids were front and centre, and it gave them, a connection immediately with what was happening down there.
It's a pretty special experience for you in your teaching career. What were you, 22 years old?
Yeah.
How does that sit now in your career 3 decades on?
It's still a memory I draw on almost weekly. It's a story I tell. It's something I'm very proud of. It's where I grew up, really, as a person, as a teacher. And it's where I learnt about the importance of inclusion and equity and all those principles that we hear and we talk about, but this was real for these kids. I remember them in the glass elevator in the Maya Centre, as it was back then. I remember them on that big pirate ship in the Maya Centre. I remember them seeing a wave for the first time at Surfers Paradise and being petrified of it, and all those memories.
Brett Shackleton, who's now the principal of Ferny Grove State School. Here's World Expo 88.
What a great
experience.
story. What a great story.
I want to dig out the archive material from the 7:30 report as it was then. But a bunch of kids from Bedourie and Birdsville coming to World Expo 88, they're the kind of stories that you still unearth 30 years on from World Expo 88. If you want to see the signs from the World Expo site, they have been refurbished, done up. Kendone has approved the stylings of the signs.
See the A's up. It's Thursday, the week before. Official unveiling on the Sunday, the 28th at 9 o'clock here at the Caboolture Historical Village. A great day. Hopefully by the end of the day there'll be a few more letters up as well.